One. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 126 today. And I am here with my guest, Lauren Delaguna. How are you doing today, Lauren?
I'm very good. How are you, Welsh Republic?
I'm okay. I've just been, doing a lot of cleaning around my place. Just went out for a bit of a walk. The weather here in New Zealand it's not too bad. It's a bit cold, but it's getting better now. It was in springtime. What about you? What have you been up to today, Lauren?
I drove down from Santa Barbara and I came to Laguna because I just had to be home for a day because I was feeling homesick. And so that's what I did today, and stopped and got food at one of my favorite eateries and saw a really nice sunset. It was really beautiful.
Oh, wow.
I saw some surfers, had a drink while watching people surf at the beach. It's pretty nice. Yeah.
That sounds really nice. What would you say is your favorite meal to order from that restaurant?
Well, we stopped at a cafe first, like this little vegetarian, vegan friendly cafe. And there they have a bunch of good things. I got chicken enchiladas because screw being vegan. Wow. And I do really like their tofu plate too, because it comes with tofu, but then you also get two sides, and I like the mac and cheese plus a vegetable of sorts. And you could do, instead of tofu, you could do any meat. They have a bunch of meat options, and then you could also have just another veggie. I don't know. They have it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, I can imagine that. I mean, everybody says California, of course, is going to shit at the moment, but I really would love to go to California to a lot of the good places. There are still some very lovely places in California, where you can go hiking. What would you say is your favorite destination to go, holiday in California that you really like?
I mean, I'm partial to Laguna Beach. I think Laguna Beach is pretty amazing. Santa Barbara is nice. I would say Malibu area, if you got the cash, is nicer. But if you don't have the cash, then Santa Barbara is really nice. Where else would I go? There's some beautiful spots in Northern California that I haven't really checked out. I was in Davis area, Yolo County area, and I would go to San Francisco sometimes, and I'd go to Sacramento sometimes, but Sacramento is not on the beach. Would not recommend Sacramento. Wouldn't recommend San Francisco either, though.
It's such a shame about San Francisco, because back in the day, everybody used to love going there in the 90s and 80s. And it was it has a lot of. I remember watching the movie from the movie Now You See Me, and there was a scene in that movie where they were mentioning, how they have a lot of French connection in San Francisco, because San Francisco's infrastructure has a lot of French influence in it, which is very cool. It is a shame though, because what's happened to that city. Sorry, it's really such a shame.
Oh yeah, it's really gross. Everything there is gross. I remember going to a concert there, and you had to step over needles and human waste and humans, and just wasn't pleasant. I wouldn't want to be around that. And then I talked to my little sister lives in San Francisco, and she's like, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's not everywhere. It's not like that in most places. And I feel like that's such extreme copium, and it's so bad in so many areas.
Well, she's always trying to look on the bright side. I remember I watched a video from a guy. You probably remember, and it was a video of this guy who was bringing school students outside, and there were homeless people outside that school, and it's dystopian. It's like seeing, some city in Africa, when Africa was, in a shitty place in the old days, and it was a broken down, state. It's really such a shame what's happening to California. And, you probably hear right now that they've signed a law where there's that law that Gavin Newsom is about to sign, where that if a kid wants to have transgender surgery like care, and if a parent refuses, sorry if you need to correct me, that's fine if you can correct me here. If a parent refuses, then they can have that kid taken away from them. And Gavin Newsom's about to sign that bill. You know what that bill is, right? Exactly.
I think from my understanding, it's like if there's a dispute in
Yeah.
custody, or if there's already like CPS services involved in the child's life, one of the additional factors that the judge can look at is if they're appropriately affirming the child's gender based off what the child says is their preferred gender. So, like if, for instance, if you have, and this is my understanding, I'm not a California attorney and I haven't even read the bill in a really long time, but my understanding is that if like two parents are getting divorced and it's like they're considering split custody, but then the mom says, well, the father's not affirming my child's gender, then there's potentiality that the mother could have like 100% legal custody over the child, or at least like more legal custody over the child than the father.
It is pretty messed up what is happening, in California. When you look at like California as a state right now, when you've lived there all your life mostly, right? Correct?
Yeah, well, I lived there till I went to college. My first 2 years of college were in Colorado, and then I went back to finish college in California, and then I briefly moved to New York, extremely briefly, and then I moved back to California, and then where was I after that? And then I went to Boston for law school, and then Arizona briefly, and now I am back in California, but I'm trying to escape. It's like escape New York, except it's escape California.
Yeah,
Either
I
way,
know what you
escape
mean by that.
commie liberal nonsense.
When there's rumors going on right now, because obviously Joe Biden, we all know the guy can't even walk straight, especially you saw in the conference, where he was at, I think it was a conference in Vietnam, and the secretary said that he had to get off easily. And you probably saw, the ceremony where he had to walk out of the ceremony early, which is just incredibly disrespectful, especially when it came to like the whole situation in Hawaii when he was just giving them $70 each, 700. Like that's not enough especially when he's giving so much money to Ukraine. When you look at that, there's rumors going on right now that conspiracy theories that Joe Biden is going to drop out and that Kamala Harris is going to take his place, and there's even potential that Gavin Newsom could become potentially his replacement. As a person, as yourself, who's witnessed the destruction of California and witnessed how bad it's gotten, when you look at that, how much does that scare you to see that Gavin Newsom could potentially be a future president of the United States?
Yeah, I've been hearing people talk about this for a while, and Gavin has even made a couple of power plays in the past in which he's like gone to natural disasters and similar things, like presidential type moves. And made presidential-esque speeches. He has no business. I mean, he's just the nephew of Nancy Pelosi. It's just corrupt family dealings. It's been a corrupt family since like the mafia times. Yeah. He's just really handsome and like charismatic, and that's what you need to be a politician, right? That really helps. So it's better than Joe Biden. I don't think either one of them's good. Like if you had to choose one person to be president, Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom, who would you choose?
None.
Okay, right. But like if those are your only two options, who would you choose?
Oh, that is a good question. Well, obviously you would choose Newsom because at least he's not a walking skeleton, even though I'm not a fan of him, but still.
Right, exactly. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. It's like better than Biden, right? And so, what other option do they have? They don't have, like, Pelosi's too old. AOC isn't old enough.
AOC, Bernie's great.
failed too
Bernie's
many
too
times.
old.
Hillary's too corrupt and couldn't win. So like
Beto
basically you're out of
Beto
candidates. The only other Democrat candidate viable is Gavin Newsom, which is unfortunate because he's a handsome white man. And as a liberal, you would probably not want to put Vivek or, you know, someone like him against
That would be.
Gavin
What do you,
Newsom.
Lauren? What do you think that Gavin Newsom would do differently if he was to become president of the United States? What would be his foreign policy like to other countries? What would be like his, you know, like social ways? How would he do things socially? What would be, you know, his rules to helping out the economy? Like, how would he do his policies? And what executive orders do you think he would bring in? What do you think a president of him would look like?
Yeah, I think it would be similar to Biden in a lot of perspective, like acquiescing American power to foreign dignitaries and like whether it be Europe or China or whatever, we would be apologizing for being America. That's what I've been seeing a lot of from Biden. I think it would be extremely similar with Gavin Newsom. You know who Gavin Newsom reminds me of as a politician? He reminds me of Justin Trudeau. I don't know why.
Yeah, he really does. You know, it's funny. I reckon Newsom, I was kind of feeling like he really reminds me of Al Gore a bit.
No, he's so much more charismatic, though, and handsome. Like, if anything, Bill Clinton, maybe, but he's more slimy, even more slimy than Clinton.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of these people, they're controlled by the bankers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers that control the United States government. The United States is just a corporation. Sorry, the government of the United States is just a corporation controlled like by the bankers and elitists. And it's really sad, you know, to see the country, you know, like just the way it's going right now, you know, Lauren, you know. But apart from that, Lauren, I just saw recently that you were on the Whatever podcast, and as before the show, I was talking with your friend Amy, who's with you there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, say hi to Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
You know, welcome to the show, Amy. So tell me about your experience, guys. I didn't watch a lot of the show, so tell me about your experience on the Whatever podcast. What was it like? What did you guys talk about on there? And I've also heard, you know, that like there are some really strict rules on the Whatever podcast. Tell me about some of the rules you have to follow when you go on there.
You're not allowed to say retard unless you are a retard, which Amy didn't apparently tell Brian that she is in fact one. So she has the card.
Yeah.
And so she got yelled at for saying it, but she was in the right. So no, that's about it. You can't like say like the N word. You can't say.
You have to speak into the mic.
Speak into the mic.
They get very finicky about that.
You got to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They say they'll kick people off if they don't speak into the mic, but I've never seen it happen.
Or pay if they are like not contributing to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Or if they're zoning out, whatever it may be. Well, I mean, not interrupting people. I mean, I just feel like
talk about child group.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's all normal stuff for a lot of like mainstream channels,
mostly
right? They don't want to. Yeah, like, they don't want to get flagged.
Kicked off for TOS. They don't. Oh, don't flash your titties. Like
that's important.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, and then the conversation got derailed a couple of times, or not derailed, but kind of got stuck in some weird tangents with Brian and trying to make him understand a hypothetical situation, which just wasn't clicking for him.
The BJ situation.
Yes. Yeah. I don't even know how to recount that.
Yeah, it's like he's like, I don't like giving head, so I don't do it. And it's like, okay, but what if a woman doesn't like giving head? And it's like, but doesn't she enjoy seeing me do it? Like me happy? Doesn't she like to please me? It's like, well, don't you like to please her? He's like, yeah, but I don't enjoy doing it. And it's like, yes.
What if she doesn't enjoy it?
It was like the most
And he
Oh,
kept saying, "What's the question?" We're like, "What do you mean?" We rephrased it. We literally spent like maybe 30 minutes on that. Like it's probably one of the longest timestamps on the entire thing. Watching it back, I was getting really frustrated at myself for just really committing to trying to make him understand because it didn't go anywhere. But aside from that, everything else ran pretty smoothly. We got into a couple debates, as is very typical on these types of platforms. Usually I get into a debate with a feminist or just to honestly, what's it called, be stereotypical.
when you were talking to one of the feminists,
or OnlyFans models,
when you
usually.
were talking, when you like talk to the OnlyFans models and like models and like these feminists, what would you say is like the hardest thing for you to talk to them about, like when it comes to topic wise, and what is your favorite thing to talk to them about, the one that you really like want to understand about them?
I think that it's more so
Where's your shame?
yeah, it's really just getting the point across that like this is something that's become so incredibly normalized, and we live in a very hypersexualized society, so it's really not surprising. It's embedded in media, like literally everywhere people look, you really can't escape it. And so my biggest point of contention, and I was telling Lauren this, is like literally seeing friends of mine who had potential, had skill sets or careers or things that they wanted to pursue, and it's like, you know, a couple years go by, this stuff's becoming more and more normalized, and now they have abandoned their ideals and all of the goals that they had because they can make money easily, right? And I get, you know, fast money, it's attractive, but fast money comes with slow problems, as they say. I think there's maybe a very small percentage of people who maybe enjoy that type of work. Maybe they like sex work. Maybe they do genuinely feel empowered from putting themselves in those situations. But I feel like for most women, like that's cope. Like it's not empowering. I think that they found a way to really numb their true feelings and suppress a lot of the shame that would typically come with that industry. And you know, when I say shame, I don't mean that we should treat people as like second-class citizens or like cast up to the very outskirts of society. Like you can still treat people with dignity and respect, but there's a very big difference between that and then celebrating it. And that's what I'm seeing, is we're seeing a lot of celebrating, right? Oh, you go girl, so empowered. That's incredible. You boss babe, look at you.
The
like
abortion cakes, like
the what?
Abortion cakes. Like,
Cakes?
Yeah, like people who get an abortion will get like a birthday cake.
Oh yeah.
Like
Insane.
celebrate
that's
without
creepy.
your abortion.
Yeah, that's my biggest
And,
that
like,
type of thing with the feminists. Yeah.
Like there was a girl on the panel that we were on, and she was so insanely talented, and she was an OnlyFans model, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And it's like, wait, so you have a 6-figure paying job? And she's like, yeah, my OnlyFans model helps with my job. And it's like, okay, if you say so. And then you also, like, she was in the Junior Olympics. She has a STEM degree.
What was she in the junior?
She had a degree in,
Can I just Can I just say what was she in the Junior Olympics for?
Swimming.
Oh wow! And she gave that up. She should have kept going. You know, she could have got a lot of
Junior
money.
Olympics for swimming. She couldn't, like, she tried her best with swimming, but she was like still extremely talented. She like had a degree in stats. She had, like, she was just really bright and had a bright future, and she still does. But she does OnlyFans and she's a realtor. And it's like, and she says she makes 6 figures with realtor and she makes about 6 figures with OnlyFans. And it's like, why would you do OnlyFans though if you're so successful with real estate?
Yeah.
What does the OnlyFans add? And it's not like if attention seeking either. She says she has a boyfriend, like a long-term committed relationship with this guy. But then also none of the girls on the podcast were doing like, they were all doing just like boudoirs, I think. I don't think any of them were doing like full on porn.
Not that I can recall.
Yeah. And so, but I guess like once you go full on porn, like I don't think that's going to help with your real estate.
No. I feel like,
agency.
honestly, even I feel like that's also Cope being like, well, I don't do that type of stuff. I feel like you're still, to a degree, put like Haas within that same light and reputation. Like, irregardless. Just kidding. I said the word, which isn't a word, irregardless, 3 times last night on whatever podcast. It's really embarrassing.
Yeah.
I
You
should
know,
have like
It's
you know,
okay.
when I look at OnlyFans in today's society, one thing I've noticed, right, with the creation of media, the creation, I personally, I don't have a problem with OnlyFans. If a girl wants to do it, if they're 18, they can. Of course, don't push that shit on kids. You should not push that shit on kids or anything like that at all. It's disgusting. It's wrong. But if someone wants to do it when they're older, like someone wants to do it, like, of course, that's fine. Like when they're adults, they can. You know, like OnlyFans is fine with me. But when I look at it, this also comes from like in the last 20 years, the way the West has been going downhill and the way it's been losing its traditional values, the family unit, the nuclear family, and especially in the way, you know, how in the last 20 years, society, especially in America or Europe, has followed a culture which teaches people, you know, to say, you must be this, you always have to get this, you always have to get that. A lot of it, you know, comes from the peer pressure of wanting to be heard. And I feel, you know, OnlyFans was created from that, you know, just like a lot of, you know, the weird societal things we see today, you know, from social media. And social media has definitely made people the need to be like to want to be their own god, to want to be their own person. It's just such a shame to see, you know, what's happening right now, Lauren and Amy, you know, with today's society, because you know, in a way, maybe OnlyFans does have its benefits, but it does have its negatives. And I think, you know, and especially with the way that, you know, how AI is coming up, how, you know, you're now having those AI influencers. You know, I'd say, wouldn't it be funny if there was actually a robot AI that went on the whatever podcast? Like an
that would be
influencer,
funny.
you know, like an influencer, like, let's say her name's like, you know, Lena or something like that. Or, but yeah, it's just, you know, when you guys see that, how do you see like the, you know, society heading in the dating pool? Because a lot of people say, especially with the way that, you know, men are giving up on dating, men say that women's standards are too high, women say that men's standards are too high. How do you see it ending? Do you think, you know, society will wake up and the dating pool will get changed? Or do you see it just the future being very bleak?
Well, as to whether or not I see the future being bleak, I do think that we are heading, like, I think society is not going in the right direction in literally any respects. So it's hard to imagine that societal relations, like at its core, which is like the relations between men and women, is going to be any better, especially if it's crumbling now, especially when we're getting rid of the concept of what a man is and what a woman is.
Yeah.
So, see somewhat of a bleak future. That being said, it is nice that we're having discussions. I don't agree 100% with like Brian or with Myron or with any of these people, but I like the conversations. I like that they point out some serious issues that a lot of women don't think about, and like stereotypes. Like I was having a conversation with Pixie the other day, because I actually hung out with Pixie most of the time as in Santa Barbara. And we were talking about how white men, whether or not they have it harder. And I was like, you know, those people who just blame everything on white, cis, heterosexual men. She's like, no, I don't know those people. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know? I feel like this, I've never met one of those people. And I'm like, you're gaslight. Like, so you don't even know what I'm talking about. She's like, no, I've never met anyone who's just like, I hate white men. And I was like, let me go on YouTube for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And like, I pulled up some girl with like a nose ring being like, white men are, and she's like, oh, well, like I see them in like, you know, Ben Shapiro making fun of them. Like I see them on the internet, but it's not like I see them in real life. And it's like, girl, did you not go to college? Like, yes, you did. Like if you were on a college campus and you came across these people. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but just those people, I felt like I was getting gaslighted by that whole situation. I forget where I was going.
Some people have commented. Sorry, just wanted to read some of the chats. So Mr. Dean Lay LDC says here, 6 figures ain't shit in California. She probably wants to buy a home someday.
She has a house. She bought it. She just moved into her house that she'd purchased.
Yeah, that's how she met her boyfriend.
There's also another guy here called another person now. The dude guy person says the question for you guys here says, what do you guys say to the people that claim all of these red pill podcast shows are made for incels? How would one respond? What is your opinion on that?
I would say that the primary audience is probably the majority of men who feel as though they are not having a good relationship with women, which often I think like the target audience is probably 70% of men, and incels fall within that 70%. Like, yeah, in the incel people, they're obviously going to have a not very comfortable relationship with women if they feel as though they've been deprived of a basic carnal need their entire life for their inability to and it's so sad because like the dating apps, when you look at Tinder, it doesn't matter how pretty you are as a woman, you'll get some matches, whereas many men never get any matches. Women only tend to go for like the top.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is
and
really
so if you're an average looking dude, like, and you work hard and you do all the right things, and yet you never get laid, I'd have a hard time. And then you see these sluts on OnlyFans, and they're like fucking 100 guys, and they're selling their bodies online, and you can't even find a nice girl to marry.
That's where it comes from. What I was mentioning earlier, it comes from how social media in a way is being used by the elitists who control the evils that control the world. How, especially when one person admitted that social media is pretty much used to control people and how it's used to dumb down society. It's like this need to play God. Like everybody, gets spoiled for choice, and especially when women are getting all of the followers and stuff, it's just like that. It is a bit of a shame. Keep talking, Lauren. Sorry for interrupting you, Lauren. I keep talking.
No, continue. I just think these incels have very legitimate concerns, and these shows address a lot of these guys' very legitimate concerns. Yeah. And some. It's not just the incels. Like, there's plenty of people who are having sex, but they're just not meeting nice girls, because girls these days can be not very nice. And that being said, and then I think that also creates a toxic relationship, because like if you're a guy and you fall in love with a girl and she's just on to the next guy within a week, and then you experience that 2 or 3 times, maybe you're not going to be a nice guy anymore. And maybe you start treating women the way that you've been treated. And then women go, where are all the nice guys? And it's like, well, maybe they've all been burnt a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I think the point is to move them from A to B, right? Like typically with any type of like niche where some form of like education is offered, even if it's like edutainment, right? It's meant to be entertaining and educational at the same time. You will find people who are already adept at whatever is being taught, tuning in to be able to enhance their skill set of where they're already at. But most of the time it's because people are lacking in that area, right? So it would make sense. Sure, a lot of incels are going to be attracted into these spaces because this is the area where they need the most help. But clearly they don't want to be incels, right? I mean, some of them do. Some of them like rep that. That's like a segment of the black pill, right?
The only person I've ever met who's like, yeah, I'm proud of being an incel, was a fucking female.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think she's an incel, and she's cute too.
I don't get how you could be.
I don't. Kidology.
Like, rep it, like
Kidology.
Never heard of Kidology. Never heard of that. What is that?
She's a person. She's a person. She's like a content creator in like the.
Kidology. Oh, I see. She's a person. Sorry, I thought you were saying it was like an ideology or something.
No, she's like a content creator, and like she says she proclaims to be an incel, and I'm like, where's your penis? Like, what do you mean? Like, you can't be an incel. Like, that's not an option for you.
Michael G says here in the comments section, he says, I watched yesterday's episode. I watched the episode. I watched the episode yesterday on the Whatever podcast. He says, Lauren, keep up the good work. Big fan. What about Amy? She did a good job too, Michael G.
Amy actually got all the praise already, so I'm glad to get one for myself.
Well, fair enough.
Lauren did absolutely crush it. It was very fun to have a debate buddy there. Usually I do not have many people on my side. So that was good.
Yeah.
Well, both of you guys did very good. Both of you guys. And this guy also says, well, bit of a simpery chat here, says, Matt G says, I'd marry Amy. He says, IDGF, which of course we all know that means. He says about her age, and I'm 22. You look better than most of these 21-year-olds in the Bay Area.
Thank you. Hydration, gallon of water a day, usually.
But Matt, what about Lauren too? She's also very pretty.
So every time one of us gets a compliment,
the other one be like,
even it out. You're like my mom with foot rubs. She'd be like, oh, could you rub my right foot?
Yeah.
Oh, but you have to even it out.
It's true though.
Now you've done my left foot longer than my right foot.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, like talking about that, what you mentioned, what would you say, like when you talk about like how all the nice guys are getting left out, which is true, it is very sad. What would you say to like all of the nice guys who are thinking about giving up on dating and all of the women, thinking about giving up on dating? What would you say to them? And what do you think, our society needs to change? Do you think that we should be getting married at a young age, like in 20, or do you think marriage should be? Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So on an individual basis, you have to figure out why is it that you're not attracting. You really have to figure out what it is with you. And then once you figure out the you problem, you'll attract some decent people, and then you only need to pick one. So I think like with the incels, that like I think for a lot of them, it's just you have to get fit. You have to get an education. You just have to work on yourself. You have to be the best possible version of yourself that you could be. I guess you don't need an education, but you do need like something that's going to make you desirable to women.
A skill, like an interest, like something that you can like pour yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's always great for sure. Even down to like little things for some guys, like there was one guy who I was talking to on Instagram, and he was saying like, I make 6 figures. Like I'm considered to be a lot of the things in the high value man category, but I still really struggle to find a girl. Like I don't consider myself to be that good looking. Like this wasn't a bad looking guy at all. He admitted he needed to get into the gym and work on his diet a little bit. And I was like, dude, like I literally challenge you to get a better profile picture. Like, especially if you're going to be approaching girls and talking to girls on Instagram, get a freaking ring light, get a better profile picture. And that alone will probably like increase like the rate of response that you get from girls. Like sometimes it's just getting your foot in the door that's like the most difficult part.
I've said this to so many guys who I've met in person. I'm like, wow, you're a great guy. Like, why are you single? And then they're like, oh, I don't know, these dating apps, like they really don't work for me. And I'm like, let me see your dating app. I'm like, well, that's a terrible picture. Right. That's a group picture where you're wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like that's a picture of your dog. Okay. That's a picture of you holding a huge ass fish, but the fish is in front of your face. So I can't see. Like this is a terrible profile. And then it's just also really unfortunate. Like, where are you going to meet people? Like my recent mistakes, I was like, okay, where are guys? I'll go to a bar.
Where are the guys?
Night out, bar. And you meet like an alcoholic. That's like the number one way to meet an alcoholic. That's if you're over 30 and still going to bars, you're probably an alcoholic. Like, I'm sorry. So not the best choice in men. And so I guess like church is a little hard for me because my mom's Jewish, my dad's Catholic, and I'm confused. So
I'd struggle with Christian guys, I think, because like I'm a Christian, but like I want like a cussing Christian, like one that's a little rough around the edges, has a bit of a past, came reformed, came to Christ.
The pastors.
The pastors?
Yeah, I feel like that's all of the pastors.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to make it a bit more relatable to me, because someone who's like being so
like Christian.
Yeah, and good their whole life, I'd be like scared of accidentally dropping an F-bomb or something.
I would like
that's the least of it.
I would like to see like Southern Belle Amy version.
Southern Belle Amy.
Oh, darling, yeah. That's right for all. Yeah, I'd like to see that never cusses. That would be fun.
See if we can unlock that persona.
So in the comments, Dr. Octopus has something interesting to say. He's got a bit of 3 different comments. I'll read the comments first and then you get your opinion. He says this. He says, the way in which the world used in the compensation landscape is kind of weird and broad. He also says here, it was originally a very specific term by some people used in the general terms that have little to do with what it originally meant. He also says, it is sad, though, in the commentary dating romantic landscape, which is unfortunate, don't know what that means, upon to active practice. What does that say in the last word?
Abstinence.
Abstinence. He also says here, the dating is very sad. My best. Yeah. So what do you guys think of what he said there?
Wait, leave the last one up. I'll read it out.
This one, you mean? This one?
Yeah, the dating landscape is very sad today. My best friend met his girlfriend through church. Not common today, unfortunately.
Yeah, what is your opinion on what Dr. Octopus said in all 4 of those comments?
It's bleak. I mean, it's on point with what we're saying. Where do you meet people? What, online? So like the number. Yeah, he's on point.
He's correct.
Yes, he's all the things. He's all the things that are right. I mean, okay, one of the number 1 ways that you can tell you're attracted to somebody is like pheromones, right? And there's a lot of biological ways that you could tell that you like someone that require being physically near them. And it's just wild that the modern culture doesn't want like physical contact, doesn't encourage physical contact between people anymore. So it's so difficult to tell who you like. And so you're taking, and every time you go on a date, it takes something out of you. Like I used to try to like, I was like at one point desperate to find a husband. I was like, I'm going to find somebody this year. I'm going to find a good guy to marry. I'm going to. So I'd like line up all of these dates and I'd go on like one day and like see if I liked them. And they're so promising online, like on the app, they're so promising. And then you meet them in person and it's just like, that was horrible. I hope I never have to do that again. Oh, great. I have another one like next week. And like, it's just miserable. And you just like, I don't know. It's exhausting. And there has to be a new way of meeting people. I don't know what the solution is. Like, I wish there was like coffee bars, like where the gym is a good place to meet people.
People don't want to be interrupted there in their workouts. It's like difficult to approach. Like
maybe there should be like a singles person hangout place with like
that would be a good idea.
Bar, a pool. But like you don't have to like, because the problem is like I don't want to always just to be like around and in public. I don't want to constantly be purchasing. Like I don't want to have to buy a coffee just to have some like social interaction for the day. Yeah. So I don't know. The world's gone very strange. There's very limited need for social interaction. So how are you going to meet people?
Amy, what is your opinion towards that? Yeah, I agree. I've never had an app. I've never used a dating app. I've never had the Tinder, the Bumble. What are the other ones? Hinge. Never done it. Never tried it.
There's OkCupid. There's OkCupid too.
Never. I've never done
Plenty
any of
of
them.
fish.
No, nothing. I
Grinder.
I mean, pretty much the whole time I've been out here.
She's been on Grinder.
I've been on Grinder. Yeah. But pretty much the whole time out here, I've been in a relationship. So I haven't really, I mean, I moved to America in a relationship 6 years ago. And then that relationship ended. And less than a year later, I started dating the guy that I was with for the last 4 years. And that's someone who I knew like in person from my circle. But for me, I've just always been more of a traditional type of person in that sense. Like, I love networking. I love meeting people. And I just think it's a much more organic way to meet. And going back to everything Lauren said, like, I completely agree. The online like environment isn't necessarily conducive to being aware of like whether or not you are truly attracted to someone. Because another thing that plays into it too, which happens in everyday interactions, but like natural selection, for example. So, you know, for example, you see a person online who has this lifestyle. It looks like everybody wants them. They get all these people. Like sometimes natural selection can trick you into being like, oh, like I want that person. They're attractive. But if you were to meet in person, you might not even hit it off like that, you know? So I think there's a lot of like more superficial things that play into it that make it a lot more difficult to have those organic, like more genuine interactions with people, for sure. I agree with what Lauren said.
When it comes to like any book or any movie, what would you recommend? Like a man, what book or like what movie would you recommend for a man or woman to watch who's struggling with dating and is a really good, you know, thing like a book or a movie that can really help them, that has, would you say, has the best insight of helping people who are struggling with dating?
I've read How to Win Friends and Influence People maybe like 5 or 6 times. I don't think it's necessarily just good for dating, but it's just really good in general for like networking, for career, but especially with like relationships as well.
Yeah, I wish I said that one. That's a great answer. My answer is so fucking shitty.
I was
thinking When Harry Met Sally. Like, stop it. Don't even get me started on the difference between those two. And it doesn't even make sense for the context. I just thought relationships, and I was like, Harry Met Sally.
Oh, yeah.
No, she's right though. That's such a great book for like learning relationships, but
that's not like for love though specifically. I know there are some, but I haven't read them. Like I haven't read the 4 love languages. I like the 5 love. I know what that is, but I haven't read it. I've heard it is a bit of a pseudoscience, so it's kind of comparable with the astrology type.
I have a better answer.
What?
The DSM-5 or the DSM-6. Figure out what psychological orders are just out there before you go try dating those people.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty good advice there.
Yeah. My friend, Lady of the Balkans.
I honestly feel like watching Red Pill podcast is not the worst way to learn about relationships to improve your game. I think they offer some good stuff.
Have you ever seen The Pickup Artist?
No, I wasn't really. Destin even told me about them. I wasn't really aware of like that community before, like the Red Pill space.
There's a person known as the Pickup Artist.
Oh, that's what they.
Yeah, the
self-titled. They bestowed that name upon themselves, or
they
other people
earned
gave
it.
them. Okay, they earned it.
They've earned it.
Nice.
Yeah, they had like a whole book. They had a TV show, like a reality TV show, where guys had to like learn how to pick up on girls, and then they got like kicked off if they weren't doing like making out with enough girls, and it was like actually pretty funny. They're like literally every single guy in the house like came into the house like an incel, like had never kissed a girl. One guy described the feeling of making out with a bologna sandwich.
Oh my god!
Because like he had literally never like, and they were all like 25, like 30, and like never. And by the end of the show, some of them were like going all the way. Like,
definitely, you can learn game.
Show.
Like learning game is like handy.
Peacocking. Have you
people
heard of peacocking?
Like, yeah, where you dress in like bright colors or wear
Guess
something
who
to like.
made up that?
Yeah,
the Pickup Artist.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that.
I remember Katy Perry had a song like that called.
I don't want to see
peacock.
No, peacocking is when you like wear like a hat or like a really distinct like article of clothing, so that people have like, oh, like
who's that person?
Like, and a lot of times people will come up to you and say like,
oh, you're
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a very easy way to start a conversation, and they came up to you, so like you're not.
It's easy, yeah.
My friend Lady of the Balkans gave an I good idea, The Shining or something. Something like that's a good movie. Hello, Lady of the Balkan. She's a good friend
The
of mine.
Shining for Lorraine.
Yeah.
I will say honestly, like,
Mm.
For anyone who is actually looking for like a practical step-by-step guide, like I said, Red Pill podcasts aren't like the worst thing to tune into, but like specifically Michael Sartain, he has a program called Men of Action, but they also offer a lot of free sessions. So it's a paid program, but they offer a lot of free value and resources, throughout. So, so while you're making a decision about whether or not it's something you want to do, they do a lot of calls, a lot of group calls, that type of thing. And I think that there's a lot of value in the stuff that they teach because they do it based on evolutionary psychology.
KFC Bailey says here, well, he's giving a bad example. Sneaker
is without a doubt the worst example of a grift in that community. Rode the red pill wave for years. With the moment the money is running dry, he magically disavows.
Oh, God, Sneaker. He is God.
I think Sneaker is just young as well. And people change their views a lot when they're young. No? I feel like
There's only one thing I think of when I think of Sneaker.
I know, but don't think about any of that. We're not talking about the drama.
No, that's not even what I think about. I think about...
Oh, yes, you showed me that. But I think, honestly, I think that Sneaker needs to be cut a little bit of slack. I think he's a young guy. I think that he's very intelligent in some things. I think he's made some mistakes, but I can't really think of many people who grew up online who've been so public in their opinions, who've been able to consistently just like do a perfect job every single time, So I definitely have a little bit of grace for him. No, you're like, no, fuck that.
I have no grace for that, man. I have zero grace for that. Like the first night I ever met him, I instantly knew I disliked him. And I sent him a message on Twitter saying, "Let's debate. I think you're total trash."
I love how correct this girl is.
I think he's total trash. Yeah, and then he blocked me eventually. I think he read it.
Wow, that was very rude. Yeah, Sneaker, I think
he was so rude to his girlfriend. I didn't like that. Don't make girls cry in front of me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You should never do that. You should always be polite to girls. Well, it should always be nice, but the way he does, I'm not a fan of Sneaker. I think he's a grifter, and I think he's just an actor. Someone actually, here's a bit of a challenge comment for you. They say, KFC Belly said, I would disagree. I think the Red Pill stuff is a grift, and more times that leads young men into the black pill. What do you think about that?
I think it can for sure, but I think that's why it's very important to, instead of just filling your mind with like the drama and the confirmation bias of like, yes, this stuff is true. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like people take in these podcasts and they consume this content. And when you let it like overwhelm you like that, then I can easily see that being a gateway into the black pill for sure. But I think the premise of the movement, it's not meant to be a prescription, right? What do they call it? It's I forget. They always say it's not a prescription, it's a conscription. I don't know. But basically it's like, if you just consume yourself without information, women are hypergamous. Your girlfriend will leave you no matter what if she finds a better guy. They're never going to be interested in you unless you make X amount of money. If you just fill your brain with that versus like, okay, so if I'm aware that this is human nature, then what can I do to align myself to, make my situation more conducive with a person that the type of woman that I would want, where they would want me back, So I think it's a difference between people who like actively like apply the advice versus people who just get sucked into like a drama vortex of just consuming the content, basically. That wasn't very well articulated, but something like that.
For me, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat of like overconsumption of the product, maybe that will lead you to the black pill. To call it like a grift, I think a lot of these guys genuinely believe everything that they're saying. Not all of them. I think Sneak is a good example of someone who didn't believe in everything that he said, which is why I didn't like him. I don't agree with all of these guys, but at least for the ones that I interact with, for the most part, I believe they for the most part. I believe they mean what they preach on for the most online. It's so hard because like sometimes they'll like say one thing and then the second the camera goes off, they're like,
I've actually never seen. Oh, well, you gave me one example the other day, but I've never seen it for myself, though. To be honest, to be entirely frank, I've never seen it for myself. Really. Not really, no.
I think we'll have some like discussions where I'll point out a
few. Lauren's very observant. Sometimes I'm not.
Like, I just don't. Yeah. Well, it's better if you're going to be into content creation. It's better to just not let anything bother you and be okay with like everyone and like give everyone the benefit of the doubt all the time.
I do that a lot.
I feel, in my honest opinion about it, guys like who look up to Sneeko and Andrew Tate and other people like Nick and a lot of the Red Pill community, a lot of guys, because we live in an age where people feel like they need to follow something, they're getting desperate for a follower, and when humans, like just have no answer, they will follow something, even if it means that, follower is not actually telling the truth. And it's just really sad to see that, Lauren, the time we're living in, it is really sad. And going to that, Lady of the Balkans gave a very good point here she says here, I think social media is our generation's problem. Our grandmothers had 6, she's talking about her grandmothers. She says, our grandmothers had 6 kids by the time they were 30. We are now struggling to meet a girl or guy for marriage. P.S. The Shining was a joke. Well, I forget.
I mean, it's a good point. There's like something to be said about, back in the day, we didn't have contraception. And so when you did get pregnant, you tended to like marry the guy who knocked you up. And there's something to be said as like most women, when they think about the first few guys they dated, like, okay, if you had to be stuck with the third guy you ever, dated for life, would you want to?
Right. Totally. I think that's like an issue that we do see in society, as well as like a lot of people think like, oh, the grass is greener, but it's oftentimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. So I can understand what she's saying in the sense that like back in our grandparents' generation, like, yeah, maybe they didn't have as many options. Maybe they're stuck with that one person, but because they are stuck with that one person, they're not like they're going to give 100% into the relationship, so and they're able to build and really grow and work through those problems together, when you're going to be way less incentivized to do that when you're always like, oh, it's greener on the other side. I can meet somebody who's already perfect for me, who already understands me, who's already like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So like back in the day, like our grandparents' age, there's the benefit of like family values, and it's anticipated that you meet someone early and then you stay
that the West,
for life.
That the West used to embrace.
And it helps with like keeping the family units, but with modern times, there's very little incentive to not get divorced after children, even, and to not even get married at all, or to not have kids. And so it's not advantageous.
100%.
When you look at that right now, there's a thing called passport bros. And what thing is, a lot of men nowadays from the West are going to places like China, Vietnam, or like Thailand, or like Russia, or Belarus, or Africa, because a lot of the people like in those countries, like the East, a lot of them still embrace the traditional values. A lot of them still follow the family structure, like in Russia, China, Thailand, Vietnam, Syria, Armenia, and like all
I'm
those.
going to be a passport girl.
And it's like one of the reasons why the East is becoming more economically powerful and economically better is because their society is becoming better, is because they haven't ditched, a lot of. What does that make you like when you see that? How heartbreaking does that make you see? Like that it's happening with the East doing that better than the West is.
It's something to be said about. I wonder how that's going to affect like global relations in like 30 years if so many people are, intermarried across global. I think that'll just be interesting. But aside from that, like it's a group problem. So like these men look at the group of American women in general as a problem in whole, and they look to less problematic groups of women. So I'm not really taking it personal. I'm not like, oh, I'm personally offended that this person is not choosing American women. It's like, that makes sense. And like, I'm personally going to find an Israeli guy. So it's fine. It's a fair, or like a nice tall Irish dude or something.
Israeli people are pretty good looking, especially the women too. They're very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah, Israelis are hot as fuck. Like the IDF,
especially
someone was
like
trying to tell me that like all Jewish people are ugly, and then I was like, IDF soldiers, and they're like, that's so copium. Like the IDF soldiers are ugly as hell. I was like, bro.
Well, not to mention, Iranian women are pretty good looking. You know, Middle Eastern women are very good looking. Iranian, Persian women, they're very Armenian, Russian women are very pretty. Serbian women are very pretty.
Just like women, dude.
What? Sorry, say it again.
I think he just like women.
Yeah, you get what I mean. But what would you guys say? Here's a bit of a fun question. What would you guys say? What country do you think has like the most good-looking guys in the world?
I love Italian guys.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Tall, dark, handsome. The features. I love the features. Yeah. Sexy.
Yeah, I think he used to like.
I don't have a type other than that. Like, it's not to say, because I'm really trying to think of any guy I've like either been in a situationship with one guy who kind of looked like that. I haven't dated any guy. Actually, two guys who kind of fit within that category. So that's not like exclusively what I go for. I'm a very personality type person. But just purely based off looks alone, I find them very sexy. Yes.
What about you, Lauren? Apart from Israeli guys, is there any other country you think it's got good-looking guys?
I mean, yeah. Australia, because I love a bad boy. So, you know, convict descendants, always great. I kind of like the Black Irish look, but that's what my dad is, you know, like the dark hair, blue eyes. And then I like Israelis. I think they're handsome. I think sometimes I think Japanese guys are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asian guys can be really hot too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Africa recently. Some good-looking guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not picky.
Out in the Serengeti.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So that like a surprise.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's very true. I would have to say, when it comes to girls, my favorite type of girls is free. I think Russian girls are very pretty. Russian girls are stunning. I think Caucasian girls, that's like, I think European Asian mix, are beautiful. I also think Eurasian are absolutely stunning. I think Iranian girls are beautiful too. I'm a big fan of Mexican and Brazilian. American girls, of course. United States girls, I think, are very pretty too. And yeah, I'm also
everyone except Australia and New Zealand.
I'm also a fan of like Chinese and I also like Serbian girls too. Serbian girls and Armenian girls are very pretty. But I have to say, Russian are the best women. Russian are the best women, in my opinion, the most gorgeous.
This whole thing is like reminding me of like Beach Boys songs and like Ain't Nothing and like other songs where they're like California girls are the best. So like ain't nothing in the whole wide world like a Southern girl. Like
KFC Bailey, what are you talking about? Serbian girls are really pretty. They're really nice. That's a silly comment. Honestly, that's really dumb.
Eastern European, is Serbia Eastern Europe?
It's in the middle. It's in the middle. It's not Eastern Europe. Sorry if I got
Why
that
would
wrong.
you
but
look
it's-
at me
it's in
while
the
we're
middle.
live and ask me a geography question? Like, what? That's so rude.
You know. But yeah,
I mean,
I
I
see it.
should know
My
I'm
friend.
Hungarian, and I know that's Eastern
Okay,
Europe. So
I
I'm
have-
like, what's nearby?
I have
don't
a
know.
geography question for you.
Mhm.
Okay, ready? What continent is Israel in?
Europe, Africa,
Oh my.
China. Wait, Asia.
Nope, China.
Wait.
You're right. It's the continent of China.
Wait, it's in
It's in
Asia.
Asia.
Okay, wow, that was embarrassing. 2 days in a row, irregardless, and China is a continent.
No.
I'm usually better than this.
No, I have a friend from Libya, and he talks about Libya a lot. And the other day I was talking to him, and I said Lebanon twice, like in a conversation. And I was like, oh, and so like Lebanon, da 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 da. He's like, yeah, anyway, in Libya,
Yeah,
like where I'm from.
right.
Like, yeah, two very distinct countries.
Right, two very different things. Yeah.
So my friend lady of the Balkans, she wrote something really nice here saying, no, I just think people were more polite in the lack of a better world before we had all of these social medias born to us. Like basically it was okay to be single, but for us who do what marriage, it's really tough out there, which is true. Basically, that's a very good point, lady of the Balkans. She's talking about how it was better in the old days because you didn't have that peer pressure of wanting to get married and people were more grateful for what they have. And, one thing is, Lauren and Amy, one thing is when I was growing up, when I was struggling with depression, one thing is a person taught me about, they said, hey, Welsh, I'm just using my name, I'm not saying my real name, I was going to say Welsh as an example. One thing they said to me is to be grateful is just think of this for a minute. Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have arms? Do you have legs? Do you have food? And I feel it's the small things that people forget about, and if those small things, we forget about, we begin to lose our way. We begin, because we think with social media makes us think about things that are completely out of stretch and it's just ridiculous. What is your thoughts on that, Amy?
Totally. One of my favorite sayings is like, what if you woke up tomorrow with only the things you thank God for today? Right. And it's like that really puts it in perspective. Like how many times throughout the day do you stop to think about like how blessed you are and all the things that you do have in your life? It's like not until like you get sick or you get a cold that you really appreciate what it feels like to be in full health. Right. It's not until you're like away from your family when you really like realize how much you love and miss them. Like, that's kind of human nature. But I do think that if you take time to really cultivate that gratitude, like every single day, like it's so good for you, even down to like a physiological level. Like it's good for you. It's good for your brain chemistry. It's good for your mood. It's good for your like trajectory, good for your reticular activating system, right? When we're focusing on the things around us that are good, then your subconscious brain is going to look for more things that are in that likeness, right? And other things. Like, were you laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing that the answer I was going to give is so like not as eloquent. All I was thinking to say is facts.
Yeah,
that's why I watch like people like murder mysteries and stuff because I'm like, at least I'm not that murdered bitch. Like that's all I think about. Like it could always be worse.
It could always be worse.
I could always be Jenny missed 48 hours over there, but I'm not. Like I didn't get killed over no $20 bill.
Yeah. Oh man, true though.
What is your opinion on the fact that there was a study that was recently done that came out last year? It was 2022, and they're mentioning that 45% of women will be single by 2030. What is your from the ages 25 to 44? What is your opinions on that?
Wait, hold on. So 45% of women will be single?
Yeah, like 45%. That's what the study said.
Surprise.
By 2030.
What was it in history? What was that like for that age range? What did that used to be?
I'm not too sure.
Zero, because it used to be such an odd thing to be. Oh, where's your husband? Oh, no husband.
Right.
How do you know what to do in the morning with your life?
True. Not that surprised.
I mean, it's going to create, with every societal problem solved, you create new societal issues. That's the issue. We had problems with society with the structure that it was set up. And we have fixed a lot of those problems by creating a lot of new problems.
Yeah.
Which is dividing the sexes while simultaneously getting rid of our understanding of the sexes.
Yeah.
And it's headache and a half. It's so funny. This, like, with feminism, I'm going full circle with, we were talking about it on the podcast. I was going to say something, but I never got it in. I just think, like, what are feminists fighting for these days? It's so funny because feminists used to fight for women's rights, and now they're fighting for the abolishment of womanhood by, like,
it's crazy.
Supporting LGBTQ. So it's just so full circle. It's just so wild. And our relationship structure as a society, it's kind of a fun. We're kind of on the cutting edge of the new world. So it's really, I'm excited to see what happens, whether it be just like total economic failure or rapture.
It's going to be a multipolar world. If you're not talking about Christian terms, of course, the rapture could be happening soon. But if you're talking about like atheist terms or something, it's going to be a multipolar world where China and, you know, some of the Asian countries are going to be the world's superpower, like China, Russia, and India are going to be the world's superpowers. United States, basically mixed. It's going to be mixed. There's going to be different superpowers, but it will be a better world. It will be a better world in a way. That's a good thing.
For sure.
Very true. Very true.
Lauren, so we've gone for an hour. Did you want to keep going for a little bit longer, or?
I do want to get going to bed pretty soon, if I'm being honest. We have a long day, but I'd love to come back sometime.
No worries, that's all good. Before we finish up, Lauren, and Amy, what was the last thing you guys would like to say? What quote of inspiration do you guys have for anyone that's thinking about giving up and wanting to give up on life?
Words of inspiration.
Yeah, I think going back to like what you were talking about, I think like the best way to like change your state is by like cultivating gratitude. I think that like what you expose yourself to day to day has a huge bearing on your life experience. And a lot of people don't realize that like 90 to 95, even more than that % of everything you do, every reaction you have, every single thing is driven by your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is based on like your programming. Yes, there's some of your nature, there's some nurture there as well. And so if you're not happy with like your circumstances, if you feel like you're wanting to give up, like I would say to like think about the information that you're putting into your brain every single day. And like, is that really conducive to the life that you want? When I'm going through a hard time, I try to think like, what I do about this now and the way I react to this now is creating like a blueprint for my future subconscious reactions. And that's a way that I'm able to kind of, even when I feel bad or like out of it or like depressed, I'm able to like retake that accountability because I know I'm programming myself to have a better outcome in the future.
What have you got to say, Lauren?
When it comes to me, when I'm feeling like that, for me, and I think for most people, it's because they feel like no one in their life cares about them, or if people do care about them, they're a burden to the people that they care about and the people who care about them. And when you take a step back, there's just so many more people in your life that you realize who love you and depend on you and need you. And it's literally for everyone. You don't think about these people. It's so like go through your contacts in your phone, go through like your very old messages, get off social media, try to get in touch with people in your real life that are tangible that you could see in person, and just like be around people who care about you and that will remind you to like how important you are to this planet.
Touch grass sometimes. I feel like especially people who are like chronically online so much, like you need to touch grass. Sometimes I just realize that like the internet isn't real life too.
That is such a funny saying, the touch grass.
Yeah, it's true though.
So Lauren and Amy, where can people find you guys?
You can find me, Lauren Delaguna, YouTube and Instagram and Twitter.
Amy Dangerfield on YouTube and Twitter. And then if you search Amy Dangerfield, you'll find me on Instagram too. But my handle is Automate with Amy.
Just want to say to you guys, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure having you. It was a fantastic interview. I had a lot of fun. And I just want to say to everybody, please go and support Lauren and Amy's work. They're very good. They do fantastic content. It's very entertaining, very cool. They're very knowledgeable. Lauren is very good when it comes to law stuff. Sorry, Lauren, we didn't get to talk about your law stuff. I really apologize for that.
Next time.
But, you know, she does very good law stuff. Also, Amy is very knowledgeable when it comes to this. And if you guys are looking for a date of advice, when it comes to date-like advice, they're very good to go to if you need it. So, yeah, please give them the like and subscribe. Go follow them on Twitter. Give them all the respect they deserve and all, you know, respect for the content deserve. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you for joining the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 126. Have a nice day. Be sure to like and subscribe this video. Have a nice day, everybody. God bless you all. Stay safe and bye.